What's happening, party people? I am still in the New York City area. I don't know how this is happening, but things are coming up, trying to get people's vehicles done. I thought I would be back in Cincinnati headed to Chicago tomorrow, but I am still here in the New York City area. I hope I'll be home in a couple of days, by Saturday or Sunday, but I'm not sure. I got a couple more things, a couple more loose ends to tie up, then I am headed back home, be home a couple days, and then hopefully head to Chicago. I have a trip planned for some personal stuff the end of next week, so man, I don't know if I'm going to make it to Chicago until October now. But if I get home in the next couple of days, I'll come to Chicago for a couple of days, get a few things done, and then head back out to take care of my personal stuff, and then head back to Chicago and finish up in Chicago. Then I'm going to go home, get a couple of those cars cleared out at home and taken care of so that I'm not getting parking violations at home. And then I'm headed to the West Coast again. So that's what's going on right now. Hope you enjoyed today's video. Thanks for watching. Welcome to Hanging Out with Robert. That's me. This video contains things that I encounter throughout the day. If for some reason I complete a task and you would like to see the details, you can click on the link in the description area below. This video also contains tips and tricks that I learned throughout the years. I plan on leaving this video accessible for about 30 days. After that, you can view it through my Patreon account. Thank you very much for watching. What's up, party people? Time to kick off the party. Get back on this 850. Get some more work done. We're putting in these aluminum control arms where you can replace the ball joints. So these things are kind of tight going in there, so we lubricated the frame of the car to help those things slide in place. We're going to use a sledgehammer. Getting ready to put the axles in. You want to make sure if you're using used axles, which is normal and common, that they have good boots on them. The boots are not cracking. You don't want to start out with no cracking boots. Make sure the ends that go in the transmission is clean, lint free, no dirt or stuff on there. And the ends where you push it through the hubs, you want to make sure that you brush all the rust off of that. You want to put grease around here so they don't get stuck in the hub, and make sure your tone ring is in good shape. It's not all rusted up or cracked up, and you can wire wheel that. You don't want to put grease on your threads, but here and in here you can put grease. Make sure your tone ring is in good shape. That's what your ABS uses to know how fast your wheels are spinning. We have the control arms installed. We have the axles installed. Torque down the subframe bolts on the front side. Need to torque down the subframe bolts on the back side. I'm getting ready to put this transmission torque mount bolt in, the whole torque mount rather. Then I'm gonna put the 12 millimeter in these power steering lines to secure that, and we're just moving right along. I just noticed that there is not any nuts holding down the steering rack, so I'm gonna go ahead and bolt that steering rack down. And we got all this stuff together. We got this mount here on and tight. We got that on and tight. We got the steering rack on and tight. Both engine mounts, front and rear, on and tight. We got the engine mount up there, on and tight. Control arms all on. Sway bar end links on and tight. Next, we're gonna put this subframe thing on there, that triangle. And we got the charcoal canister installed. Now we gotta run those vacuum lines. When we come back from lunch, we're gonna put the exhaust on. One thing I want to say about these power torque bushings that's on the end of this control arm is I don't think they have to be loaded, because we put the bar level, we torque these bolts down, And it was easy to pivot that down and up, maybe because of the lubrication or whatever in there. But normally, your control arms, the bushings in there don't let it pivot, but these are pivoting. So I don't know if you have to load these if you use those bushings. Back from lunch, about to put the exhaust on, and we got a hole in the exhaust pipe we need to plug and don't know what size the hole is. So we got this hole right here on this downpipe. Not sure why it's there. It's smaller than an O2 sensor. Maybe 14. I don't know what the thread pitch is, but anybody got any suggestions on what to plug that with? I bet you this port is for that SAS stuff on the 97 and newer cars. That stuff that goes over to that SAS, so we need to plug that. I'm gonna put the timing belt on, then I'm gonna put the rear cam seals in, put this bracket on the back, and keep moving in that direction. Got the timing belt in place. I put some vacuum hose in there and wedged it up in there to keep the belt pressed against the crank so that the belt doesn't jump when I try to put it around the cams. Now these cams came out of that NA over there. So when I pull this up, I'm just a little bit off. So I'm gonna have to loosen these bolts to put these sprockets in their proper position, because my crank is dead on the mark. So I'm like a quarter of a tooth off. So I'm gonna loosen this sprocket up and get it proper so that the belt is tight around there. Let me finish putting this belt on. I got the timing belt installed. I had to take those 3 bolts loose on that cam sprocket so that I can move that cam sprocket just a little bit to get the belt on there nice and tight. I put the tensioner on. I pulled the hand grenade pin out of the tensioner. I removed the locking tools from the back. I got to reach down there and remove that vacuum hose from down there so that I can roll this engine over and make sure that the timing is set and the cams are not locked up in the head. So I use this cover to make sure the timing's right. Next, I'm going to take the cam seals, lubricate them, and install them in the back of this head. Now you guys may remember that a week ago we installed this cam cover with the anaerobic sealant, and I can actually wipe the exposed anaerobic sealant onto my glove there. You see that stuff, as long as it's exposed to the air, it will not dry. But the surfaces that are mated and it suffocated that stuff, that is dry and ready to be used. I could throw the oil in here, start this engine up once I get everything done. So we're going to go ahead and roll this engine over, make sure nothing's bound up, and move on with the next task. So here's a plug that fits in that little exhaust port. This plug also screws into the radiator where your transmission and oil cooler line plugs are, but we put this in that exhaust hole. We screwed it in with a T50. So there's that end of that pipe that we screwed that plug into. You might be able to see the plug if I get on a different angle here. Got a plug in it. And we got the downpipe installed. Next, we're going to start connecting pipe all the way back to the tailpipe. We got the exhaust done. Starting there, I showed you we had that plug in there. Come down under the car. We V-band the cat, high efficiency cat. come down. We clamped right there. We hung the resonator, and it jumps up over the rear suspension. We hung this side of the muffler, passenger side of the muffler. Then we was able to V-band right there in front of the anti-sway bar. Then we hung this other side of the muffler. And then we was putting the provided clamp on there. We could not get that clamp tight enough to stop us from turning the tailpipe tip, and actually sheared the head of the bolt off. So the owner had this clamp here, and we put that on there, and we got that thing on tight enough. You want at least a 1/2 inch space between your tailpipe tip and your bumper so you don't melt your bumper. And you want that thing sticking out just barely, maybe a 1/4 inch or a 1/2 inch from the bumper so it don't smoke up your bumper. If you put it out too far, you'll probably burn your leg one day getting in stuff in and out of the trunk. So there it is, folks. The exhaust is installed. Let's see what's next. I got the parts on the back of the cams. I rolled the timing engine over a couple of times, and the timing is lined up perfect. Now we may adjust these a little bit for the NA cams, but you see the marks are dead on. We use the IPD tool to move the cams as recommended so that we can get a little bit better torque curve out of these cams. And we already got the spark plugs in. Next, we're going to look for the heat shield for the turbo and start putting the rest of the parts on this cylinder head. I'm going to find that bracket on the other side. The same plug we put in that exhaust also plugs this DO88 radiator holes. We plug the transmission line holes, and we plug the oil cooler holes because we're not running either one. I clipped that rebounder in that timing belt tensioner, so that plastic piece is in there. We have the cam timing tool to get the cams to start to open and start to close where they're supposed to. The IPD instructions suggest that you retard the intake cam 4 degrees and advance the exhaust cam 5 degrees. That should provide for the smoothest running and the best power gain when using these NA cams. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. NA cam timing is done. The timing is made with these screws in the head. These marks stay the same and they'll be on the mark. And that's the tool. Ending the day with putting the top front timing belt cover on. I guess it's the top cover. This one is the lesser of two evils. It's got one nice size crack instead of several small cracks. So I stop drilled them to stop them from walking, and we're going to use this one. Just to recap, we installed both CV axles. We installed aluminum control arms. We installed the anti-sway bar end links. We installed the timing belt, serpentine belt, tensioner, full exhaust, rear cam seals. We adjusted the cam timing for the NA cams and started putting things on the back of the head. And I believe that's going to do it for today. We did a couple other things too, like put the torque mount on down there, secured a couple of mounts, secured the subframe. So moving right along. If you feel that this information was useful, please like it and share it with your social media friends. You can subscribe to my channel so that you will get notifications of future videos that I post. You can follow me on Twitter, and if you need to contact me directly, please visit my website. And if you have any questions, leave them below, and someone or myself will reply to them. Again, thank you very much for watching.